Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday. Introduction. Imagine it's 1996. The internet is a dial-up symphony of clicks and hisses. Two young founders, Sabir Bhatia and Jack Smith, have a brilliant idea: a free, web-based email service. They call it Hotmail. They take their idea to a famous investor, Tim Draper, who loves the product but asks them a simple question that stumps them: how will you get the word out? Their first instinct is the old way. The expensive way. We'll put it up on billboards, one of them says. Draper just shakes his head. Too much money for a free product. They throw out more ideas. Radio ads? Same problem. For a moment, it seems like this great idea might just wither on the vine, another casualty of an empty marketing budget. Then, Draper has a flash of insight. It's a strange, almost silly idea. He asks them, Could you put a message at the bottom of everybody's email screen? The founders are hesitant. It feels a little cheap. But Draper presses on. So put P.S. I love you. Get your free email at Hotmail at the bottom. That one tiny feature, that simple, almost rejected idea, changed everything. It didn't just market the product, it turned the product into the marketing. Every single email sent from a Hotmail account became a tiny, personal advertisement. Within 6 months, they had 1 million users. 5 weeks after that, 2 million. In less than 3 years, Hotmail had 30 million users and was sold to Microsoft for $400 million. They didn't have billboards. They didn't have radio ads. They had a single clever line of text. Now, why am I telling you this? Because this story holds the key to a revolution that has quietly reshaped the world of business, creativity, and influence. It's a story about how tiny startups with no money can topple giants, and how ideas can spread like wildfire without a single dollar spent on traditional advertising. The man who documented this revolution is Ryan Holiday. At 25, Holiday was the director of marketing for American Apparel, a massive global company. He had a big office, a team working under him, and a playbook that hadn't changed in 75 years: buy ads, pitch reporters, plan events. He was living the marketing dream. Until one day, he read an article with a headline that hit him like a lightning bolt: Growth Hacker is the new VP of Marketing. He had never heard the term before, but he quickly realized that a new breed of thinker, part marketer, part coder, part scientist, was making his entire profession obsolete. This book, Growth Hacker Marketing, is the story of his awakening. It's his journey to understand this new mindset. And my promise to you is this: by the end of our time together, you won't just understand this mindset, you'll be able to use it. Whether you're building an app, launching a YouTube channel, starting a school club, or just trying to get an idea to spread, you will learn the hidden playbook that the fastest growing companies in the world use to achieve explosive growth. This isn't about having a bigger budget. It's about being smarter, more creative, and more connected to what people actually want. So, let's begin. Book summary. Let's travel back for a moment to that office Ryan Holiday described. Picture it. A big desk. A stack of magazines waiting to be reviewed. Ad designs to approve, invoices to process. The day-to-day work felt important, like something out of the show Mad Men. It was the world of traditional marketing, an industry built on a grand fantasy: the blockbuster movie launch. You know what I'm talking about. The red carpet premiere. The massive advertising blitz. The hope that on opening weekend, everyone in the world will be talking about your new thing. For decades, this was the only way companies knew how to launch something. They would spend months, sometimes years, developing a product in secret. Then, they'd hand it over to the marketing department and say, "Okay, now go sell this." And the marketers would spend millions of dollars trying to convince the world to pay attention. The problem? Most of the time, it didn't work. Most movies fail. Most products flop. And even when something did succeed, nobody really knew why. Was it the TV commercial? The billboard? The magazine ad? It was all just a massive, expensive gamble. And for the big movie studios and Fortune 500 companies, that was fine. They could afford a few failures, because the one big hit would pay for all the misses. But what about the rest of us? What about the startup founder with a dream and an empty bank account? What about the creator who has poured their soul into a project? We don't have 10 other projects in the pipeline. This is it. We can't afford to gamble. This is the broken system that the first growth hackers looked at and said, there has to be a better way. The very first and most important shift in thinking is so profound it changes the entire game. A traditional marketer is given a product and told to sell it. A growth hacker looks at the product and says, is this something people actually want? The single worst marketing decision you can make is to start with a product nobody needs. Yet, for decades, that's exactly what we did. The growth hacker mindset begins long before the launch. It begins with something called product-market fit. This sounds like a technical business term, but the idea is incredibly simple and human. It means creating something that a specific group of people needs so desperately that it practically sells itself. It's the perfect harmony between what you've made and the people you've made it for. Think about Airbnb. Today, it's a global giant where you can rent anything from a tent to a castle. But it didn't start that way. In 2007, it began as Air Bed and Breakfast. The founders literally put air mattresses on the floor of their San Francisco loft and offered guests homemade breakfast. It was a decent idea, but it wasn't explosive. They could have spent all their money trying to market that idea, trying to convince the world that sleeping on an air mattress was the next big thing. But they didn't. They listened. They watched. They iterated. They noticed that hotels were always booked up during big design conferences. So they pivoted, repositioning their service as a networking alternative for conference attendees. That was a little better. They had a clearer market. But they sensed they could do more. They listened to feedback and realized people weren't just looking for a cheap place to crash, they were looking for unique travel experiences, something more authentic than a generic hotel. So they pivoted again. They dropped the breakfast part, shortened the name to Airbnb, and broadened the vision. It was no longer about air mattresses, it was about renting any unique space imaginable. A private island. A treehouse. A castle. That was the explosive idea. They had found product-market fit. And the best marketing decision they ever made wasn't an ad campaign. It was changing their product until it was irresistible. Instagram has a similar story. It didn't start as the photo-sharing app we know today. It began as a location-based social network called Bourbon. It was complicated, with check-ins, plans, and photos all mixed together. It had a small, dedicated group of users, but it wasn't taking off. The founders looked at the data and noticed something fascinating. While people were ignoring most of the features, they were using one part of the app obsessively: the photo filters. So they made a brave decision. They threw away almost everything they had built. They stripped the app down to its most beloved feature: take a photo, add a beautiful filter, and share it. They relaunched as Instagram. Within 1 week, they had 100,000 users. 18 months later, they sold the company to Facebook for $1 billion. This is the heart of the growth hacker philosophy. Marketing isn't something you do after the product is built. Marketing is the process of building the product. It's the job of the marketer to be in the room with the engineers and designers, asking the tough questions. Who are we building this for? What problem are we solving? What do our first users love? And what do they ignore? It's about humility. It's about being willing to throw out months of work because the evidence shows you're on the wrong path. The prize doesn't go to the first person to market. It goes to the first person to achieve product market fit. Because once you get there, all of your marketing efforts become like a spark landing on a pile of kindling soaked in gasoline. The old way? It's like striking a match in the rain and hoping for a miracle. So, let's say you've done the hard work. You've listened, you've iterated, you've pivoted, and you've built something that a core group of people truly loves. You have product market fit. Now what? The old playbook would tell you it's time for that blockbuster launch. Time to get on the front page of the New York Times. Time to try and reach millions of people all at once. The growth hacker resists this delusion. Instead of a sledgehammer, they use a scalpel. Their goal isn't to reach everyone. It's to reach the right people, those first true fans, as cheaply and effectively as possible. This is the second stage, finding your growth hack. This is about creating that initial boost, that shot in the arm that gets your engine started. And it almost never looks like traditional marketing. Let's look at Dropbox. When they started, they had a brilliant product for sharing files, but it was hard to explain. How could they show people its magic? They could have spent a fortune on ads. Instead, the founder, Drew Houston, made a simple 3-minute demo video. But this wasn't just any video. He knew exactly who his first customers would be, the tech-savvy, early adopters who hung out on websites like Dig and Reddit. So he filled the video with inside jokes and references that only that community would understand. He wasn't trying to appeal to your grandma. He was speaking directly to his tribe. He posted the video on those sites, and it exploded. Overnight, the waiting list to try Dropbox went from 5,000 people to 75,000 people. That one, perfectly targeted video was all the launch they needed. They didn't need a press release. They didn't need a TV spot. They just needed to capture the attention of their core audience. And those 75,000 people were the seed that would eventually grow into hundreds of millions of users. The key insight here is to go where your target users already are. If you're building something for fashion lovers, you don't buy a billboard in Times Square. You find a way to get featured on the top fashion blogs they read every single day. If you're building a tool for gamers, you don't pitch the Wall Street Journal. You connect with influential streamers on Twitch. Sometimes, the growth hack is even more clever. It's about piggybacking on someone else's platform. When PayPal was just starting out, they didn't try to compete with Visa and MasterCard head-on. They noticed a new booming marketplace where people were desperately trying to send money to each other: eBay. So they focused all their energy on becoming the best payment solution for eBay users. They effectively stole their initial growth from eBay's massive user base. What Airbnb did with Craigslist was just as brilliant. They knew that people looking for short-term rentals were already on Craigslist. But Craigslist was clunky and anonymous. Airbnb was beautiful and built on trust. So their engineers built a tool that allowed anyone listing their apartment on Airbnb to cross-post their listing to Craigslist with just one click. Suddenly, this tiny, unknown website had free distribution on one of the biggest websites in the world. A traditional marketer would never have even thought of that. It took an engineer, tasked with the problem of growth, to come up with such an elegant, technical solution. This is the art of the growth hack: finding a unique, creative, and often technical way to get your product in front of the people who will love it most. It could be a stunt, like when the car service Uber offered free rides to all the tech influencers at the South by Southwest conference, knowing they were a captive audience who couldn't find a cab. It could be creating the illusion of exclusivity with an invite-only system, like Mailbox did, creating a massive waiting list and tons of social buzz. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's trackable and effective. The goal is simple: Pull in that first small contingent of passionate users. Because the next step isn't about you shouting about your product anymore. It's about empowering them to do it for you. You've built something great. You found your first 1,000 true fans. Now, how do you turn 1 into 2, and 2 into 4? How do you make it go viral? In every marketing meeting, someone eventually says the magic words, "We need this to go viral." They say it as if it's something you can just decide to do, like ordering a pizza. But virality isn't an accident. It's not magic. It is engineered. This is the third stage, making it spread. The growth hacker understands a fundamental truth. You're asking your users to spend their social capital for you. You're asking them to put their reputation on the line by recommending your product to their friends, family, and colleagues. That is a huge favor. The only way they will do it is if you make it incredibly easy and incredibly rewarding. Virality must be baked into the product itself. Let's go back to Hotmail. That little PS line wasn't just an ad, it was a viral engine. Every user became a salesperson. The product was inherently designed to spread. Dropbox perfected this model. After their initial success with the demo video, they tried running paid ads on Google. The results were terrible. It cost them almost $400 in advertising to acquire a single paying customer. It was unsustainable. Then, they had their epiphany. They built a referral program. The offer was simple. Invite a friend to Dropbox, and when they sign up, you both get extra free storage space. It was a win-win. Almost overnight, sign-ups increased by 60%. Today, more than a third of all Dropbox users come from this referral program. They didn't pay for ads. They paid their users in a currency they controlled, digital space, to do the marketing for them. This principle of built-in incentives is everywhere. Think of Groupon. Every deal comes with an offer. Refer a friend, get $10. Living Social went even further. Get this deal for free if 3 friends buy it through your link. They turned their customers into a commission-based sales force. But incentives are only one part of the equation. The other crucial element is making your product public. Humans are creatures of imitation. We see what other people are doing, and we want to do it too. So, a growth hacker constantly asks, how can we make using our product more visible? Apple is the master of this. Why are their headphones white? At a time when every other headphone was black, that simple design choice turned every single iPod and iPhone user into a walking billboard. You could spot them on the subway, in the gym, walking down the street. It created what social scientist Jonah Berger calls behavioral residue, evidence of the product that sticks around long after the purchase. This is why almost every email you get from a new app or service has a little line at the bottom, "Sent from my iPhone," or "Sent from mailbox." It's free advertising, built directly into the use of the product. When the music service Spotify integrated with Facebook, it was a stroke of genius. Suddenly, all your friends could see what you were listening to in real time. It sparked millions of conversations that all started with, "Hey, what's this Spotify thing?" The goal is to design a product that advertises itself. The more public it is, the more people will see it, imitate it, and the more likely it is to spread. You can't just slap a share on Facebook button on something and hope for the best. You have to ask why someone would share it. Is it because it makes them look smart? Is it because it offers them a tangible reward? Is it because it connects them to their friends? You have to give them a reason. Virality isn't luck. It's a science. And it starts by thinking of your users not just as customers, but as your most powerful marketing channel. So, the engine is running. Your product is great. You've acquired your first users. And you've even built in features that are helping it spread virally. You should be done, right? You can just sit back and watch the numbers go up. Not so fast. This is where traditional marketing usually ends. They get the leads, bring the customers in the door, and then their job is over. It's someone else's problem to keep them. But for a growth hacker, this is where some of the most important work begins. What's the point of spending all that effort to get new customers if they pour right out through a hole in the bottom of your bucket? This is the final, crucial stage, closing the loop through retention and optimization. Growth isn't just about acquisition. It's about keeping the users you have and making them so happy that they never want to leave. Because a happy, dedicated user is the best marketing tool you could ever ask for. In its early days, Twitter had this exact problem. They were getting a lot of media buzz, and people were signing up in droves. But there was a problem. Most of them weren't sticking around. They'd create an account, look around at a confusing, empty timeline, and leave, never to return. The bucket was leaking, badly. The marketing team could have bought more ads to get even more signups, but they were smart enough to realize that would be like pouring water into a sieve. Their best marketing move had nothing to do with attracting new customers. It was about fixing the product for the ones they already had. A growth hacker on their team named Josh Ellman dug into the data. He and his team pored over the numbers, looking for a pattern. And they found one. They discovered that if a new user followed at least 5 to 10 other accounts on their very first day, they were dramatically more likely to understand Twitter's value and become a long-term, active user. Armed with this insight, they completely redesigned the sign-up process. Instead of just dropping you into an empty feed, they started actively suggesting interesting accounts for you to follow based on your interests. That one small change, driven by data, had a massive impact on user retention. They plugged the hole in the bucket. This is the mindset of constant optimization. It's the humility to know that your product is never truly done. There are always parts that can be better. Maybe the sign-up button on your homepage is the wrong color. Maybe your checkout process has one too many steps. Maybe your users don't know how to use your most powerful feature. The growth hacker is a scientist. They use tools to track what users are actually doing. They run A/B tests, showing one version of a web page to one group of users and a different version to another, to see which one performs better. They are obsessed with data, not because they love spreadsheets, but because they know that data provides clarity in a world that has been dominated by gut instinct for too long. Sometimes, the solution is low-tech. A startup called DogVacay, which is like Airbnb for dogs, noticed that many people would sign up but never actually book a pet sitter. So, for a while, they tried something that doesn't seem scalable at all. They personally called them. A team member would call a new user and say, "Hey, we saw you signed up. Is there anything we can help you with?" They would walk them through the service and help them find their first host. This personal touch turned countless curious lookers into active, loyal users. The point is, it's almost always more profitable to focus on the customers you already have than to chase new ones. A tiny 5% increase in customer retention can lead to a 30% increase in profitability. It's far easier to sell to an existing happy customer than to a brand new prospect. As one growth hacker puts it, retention trumps acquisition. Ryan Holiday brings all these steps together with a story of his own. When he was helping the author Tim Ferriss launch his book, The 4-Hour Chef, they faced a disaster. Almost every major bookstore in the country refused to carry the book. The traditional channels were completely closed. They had to rely on growth hacking. First, product market fit. Tim didn't just write a book, he designed each chapter to appeal to a specific community, testing ideas on his blog to see what resonated with his audience. Second, finding their growth hack. Instead of begging for reviews in newspapers, they targeted high-traffic blogs that they knew their ideal readers visited, and tracked the sales from each one. Third, virality. This was their masterstroke. They partnered with BitTorrent, a file-sharing platform with 170 million users. They created a free bundle with over 250 pages of bonus material from the book, videos, interviews, and extras. It was the ultimate try before you buy. 2 million people downloaded that free bundle, driving hundreds of thousands of sales. It was a viral success that no bookstore could have delivered. Finally, optimization. They tracked everything. They knew which blog posts drove sales and which didn't. They knew how effective the BitTorrent campaign was. They weren't guessing, they were learning, ready to apply those lessons to the next launch. That's the full loop. It starts with a relentless focus on making something people want. It kicks off with a targeted push to find your first fans. It grows by engineering virality into the product itself. And it sustains itself by obsessively optimizing and retaining every user you earn. It's not a checklist, it's a fluid, continuous cycle. And it's a mindset that is redefining what it means to make an idea spread. Commentary. So, what do we take away from all of this? When you peel back all the stories and examples, you're left with one powerful, central idea. Marketing is no longer a department. It's a mindset. A mindset that can and should permeate every single part of a business or a creative project. For generations, we were taught to think of marketing as the megaphone, the thing you use at the very end to shout about what you've made. Ryan Holiday shows us that this model is not only outdated, but incredibly wasteful. The new model, the growth hacker model, thinks of marketing as the compass, the tool you use from the very beginning to guide you toward building something that people will want to share. What I find so liberating about this approach is that it puts the power back in the hands of the creator. You don't need a massive budget. You don't need fancy connections at a PR agency. What you need is curiosity, a willingness to listen, and the courage to test and be wrong. The tools of the internet have made it possible for anyone to track, test, and improve their ideas in a way that was impossible just a generation ago. This isn't just for tech startups in Silicon Valley. If you're an author, you can test your chapter ideas on a blog. If you're a musician, you can release a single to a small group of fans and get feedback before producing the whole album. If you're leading a school project, you can survey your classmates to find out what they actually find interesting, rather than just guessing. This is the essence of product-market fit, and it applies to everything. So how can you start thinking like a growth hacker today? Here are 3 simple actions you can take. First, find your own product-market fit. Before you go all in on your next big idea, create what Eric Ries calls a minimum viable product. This could be a simple demo, a single blog post, or a quick sketch. Share it with a small group of people, not your friends and family who will tell you what you want to hear, but the people you actually want to serve. Ask them 2 simple questions. What did you love? And what was missing? And then, be prepared to change your idea based on what they say. Second, find your one true channel. Instead of trying to be everywhere at once, spreading yourself thin across every social media platform, do some research. Where does your ideal audience, your first 100 fans, truly live online? Is it a specific subreddit, a niche Facebook group, a particular hashtag on TikTok? Find that one place, and go there to provide value. Answer questions, share your knowledge, and build relationships before you ever ask for anything. Third, bake in one viral loop. Think about the thing you're creating. Is there one small, simple way you can encourage people to share it? It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as creating an incredibly shareable quote graphic from your presentation. It could be an offer like, bring a friend to our club meeting, and you both get free pizza. Make it easy and rewarding for your first fans to become your evangelists. At its core, growth hacking is about a shift from arrogance to humility. It's moving away from the build it and they will come fantasy and embracing the scientific process of testing, learning, and iterating. It's about understanding that the most effective marketing isn't a loud advertisement, it's a product or an idea that is so good, so useful, and so perfectly suited to its audience that it can't help but spread. That was the book summary of Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday. We've certainly journeyed through the core principles today, but I want to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It can show you the beautiful pictures, but it can never replace the feeling of actually being there. The real magic of this book is in the details, the specific case studies, the way Ryan Holiday connects the dots, and the mindset shift that happens when you immerse yourself in his thinking. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If any of the ideas we've discussed today have sparked something in you, if you feel that pull of curiosity, then I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning tactics, it's about fundamentally rewiring the way you think about creating and sharing ideas. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new perspective, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.